How many of you have had a minimum wage job where you worked the maximum hours? I used to work at a job where I only got paid $7.25 an hour, and I thought my efforts were worth much more than that. Hi, I'm Shelby Hanlon. I'm 17 years old, and I will be influencing you to believe that the minimum wage should be raised. There are many problems with the way the minimum wage is now, at only $7.25 an hour. These problems include working adults seeking public assistance and working adults that can't afford to pay their minimum wage. They can't afford to pay their monthly mortgages and rent. The solution to this problem is easy. Raise the minimum wage. Let's start with how working adults must look out to find public assistance. According to Carrie Newguy, MIT entrepreneur and founder and CEO of Ometry, a risk technology company, and Dr. Glassmere, professor at Economy, Geography, and Regional Planning, authors of Minimum Wage, Can an Individual or Family Live on It? It is stated that working adults working on minimum wage must seek to find help, including food stamps and Medicaid. It is also stated in minimum wage that working adults must have multiple minimum wage jobs just to supply their family with food, clothing, medical care, and a home for themselves and their family. Throughout minimum wage, it is also stated that the living wage does not equal the minimum wage, meaning the living wage is calculated by putting together the cost of food, housing, transportation, healthcare, and other necessities needed to live in a home. There are many things that are associated with basic necessities, but some people that work on minimum wage have to work 139 hours a week just to make a living rate. For most of us, we think of a work week and we think 40 hours a week. Anything more than 40 hours a week is overtime. But for the people that are working on minimum wage, they have to work almost 20 hours a day just to make a living wage. If you are working 20 hours a day, there is no time to see your family, your friends, go out to eat, or anything. You work and you come home. That is not a way to live. Now that we have gone over how working adults must seek out for public support, let's go over how most working adults making minimum wage can't afford to pay their rent. For me, I don't have to worry about paying rent right now because I live at my parents'. I'm only 17, so in a few years, I will have to worry about paying rent, but for now, I just live under my parents' roof. But for my brother, on the other hand, he pays almost $700 a month on rent. Think about it. If you're only making $7.25 an hour, you would be very uncomfortable paying $700 a month for just rent alone. There's also more necessities that we must pay for each month, including gas, car payments, groceries, and much, much more. According to the impact of increasing minimum wage on homeownership and home equity loans, written in 2019 by Ho Newguy, MFA recipient from the New College in California, San Francisco, he states within his article that whenever minimum wage was created, it was created for those with low working skills and entry-level jobs. Although whenever minimum wage was being created, they didn't think about the rent and mortgage that had to be paid monthly. Who can live off of $7.25 an hour? Also, in the impact of increasing minimum wage, it was stated that over 50% of a minimum wage workers' annual income goes to paying their mortgage. Who wants to live on just paying mortgage? Now that we have gone over the many ways that minimum wage is not okay, let's go over the solution. The solution is simple. Raise minimum wage. According to Should We Raise the Minimum Wage, published by Junior Scholastic, an informational magazine, in 2017, it was stated that although we are one of the wealthiest countries in the world, we still have over 43 million families who live in poverty due to the minimum wage being set so low. The minimum wage needs to be raised in order to help people survive. And while the minimum wage is not being raised, the costs of homes, healthcare, childcare, and groceries, along with many other necessities, are being raised. According to American economist James Galbraith, author of How to Save the Global Economy, Raise the Minimum Wage a Lot, written in 2012, it is stated that when the poor have more money in their pockets, everyone benefits. Everyone who couldn't go to the grocery store or afford childcare can now afford it because they are getting paid more than they were whenever they worked on minimum wage. Galbraith also states that whenever the minimum wage is raised, people won't have to break their backs and work so much. They will be able to spend time with their families and live a better life. Now, let's go over what we have learned. There are many problems with the minimum wage only being $7.25 an hour, including working adults seeking public assistance to support their families and themselves, and working adults not being able to pay their rent. The solution to this problem: raise minimum wage. We must come together as an economy and raise the minimum wage so that we have a wealthier and more well-rounded economy. Now, the next time you are going out and finding a job, think that you are a single mother. You have 2 children at home, and this minimum wage job is the only thing you have. I know that would change my perspective. Thank you for listening to my speech.